This is either going to go very well or very badly. In today's episode, I'm going to be taking on Eric Dubay. Yeah. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Emth degree. I am your vaguely person-shaped thing, M here, and today we're going to be digging into the flat earth realm. I am going to be responding to a video that was posted by the main flat earther himself, the head of the cult, Eric Dubay. Now, this video is a little bit older. It looks like he posted it maybe a week or so after the Artemis II mission, and it is indeed focusing on Artemis II. Specifically, it is focusing on Christina, one of the astronauts from the Artemis II mission, and pointing out some inconsistencies in not only her behavior after the mission, but other inconsistencies in the mission in and of itself. So we're going to be taking a look at that and responding to just how much he doesn't understand things. Like, it's bad. Let's dig into this. This is going to be great. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is either going to go very well or very badly. The people from the flat Earth sphere are going to are going to potentially invade my channel and try to take me down. I can almost guarantee it because I'm talking shit about their Lord and Savior. I think I can say shit. I think we're over a minute into the video, so we should be good. They're gonna try to take me down because I'm gonna talk shit about their Lord and Savior. So let's do this.
NASA continues to embarrass and expose themselves with every new release as this fake Artemis moon mission is backfiring in their face. More and more people are questioning the anomalies and seeing the inconsistencies between what NASA says and does. Starting with their supposed re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, the astronauts were supposedly being propelled at a ridiculous and impossible 25,000 miles per hour.
No, Eric. No, they were not. They were not being propelled at 25,000 miles an hour. The pull of Earth's gravity, which I know flat earthers have a hard time with gravity, the Earth's gravity was pulling them in and gradually accelerated them to 25,000 miles an hour, almost 26,000 miles an hour on re-entry. The whole process behind the mission was they shot the capsule towards the moon and gave it enough thrust to send it around the moon, and then as they were coming back around the backside of the moon, Earth's gravity took over and started pulling them back towards the Earth, because yes, Earth's gravitational influence does go that far, and then some. The astronauts were a full 4,000 miles past the moon. Earth's gravity is immensely powerful, and I don't think you understand that. I mean, I know the flat earth playbook is to always say, well, if Earth's gravity is so intense, then how can birds fly or bees fly or planes fly or whatever? All of those things have ways to develop thrust that counteracts gravity. It takes a lot of force, depending on the size of the object, but there are things that can counteract gravity. And I know the response to that is usually, well, if there are things that can counteract gravity, then what's holding the ocean down? The ocean weighs a lot. I was going to try to come up with a number, but that number is not going to happen. The ocean weighs a lot. The ocean also doesn't have wings. The ocean doesn't have a way of generating any kind of a thrust to leave the Earth's surface. Most things don't. Unless you are a bird or an artificially designed human thing that can create thrust, like a rocket or a plane or something like that, you're not going to leave the Earth for more than a couple of seconds. I mean, we can jump to counteract Earth's gravity, but we can't jump very high. I think the best of us can maybe jump another 4 to 5 feet in the air without assistance. Maybe. That might be pushing it. But things have thrust. The point I was trying to make was the Artemis II capsule was shot to the moon, shot 4,000 miles past the moon, and then at that point, Earth's gravity took over the mission and started to bring the Orion capsule back towards Earth, slowly accelerating it as it got closer and closer to Earth. It didn't get to 25,000 miles an hour until approximately 60 to 100 miles above the Earth's surface. It wasn't just always going 25,000 miles an hour. In fact, in the hour or so leading up to it, it was actually only doing about 13 to 14,000. So as it got closer and closer and closer, which is what you would expect, as it gets closer and closer and closer, Earth's gravity becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, and it speeds up. It's like if you throw a baseball into the air, it will reach an apex of its height and then slowly start coming down faster and faster and faster. That is exactly what they did with the Orion capsule. It was basically they threw it. I mean, throwing is a generous word. They used rockets to throw the Orion capsule to the moon, circle over it, and then Earth's gravitational influence picks it up at the apex of its loop around the moon and starts shooting it back towards Earth. It wasn't always going 25,000 miles an hour. I don't understand why gravity is such a hard thing for you.
The idea that humans can move at such a speed without having their organs crushed, losing consciousness, having irreparable damage done to their bodies, or outright death, is a leap of logic NASA fanboys hurtle over without a second thought.
As I have just covered, they weren't always going 25,000 miles an hour. It was a gradual build-up over several hours to 25,000 miles an hour. Yes, if you were accelerated to 25,000 miles an hour almost instantaneously, you would explode. That is not a disputed fact. That is, however, not what happened. The Orion capsule was gradually speeded up by Earth's gravitational influence to 25,000 miles an hour. You're not going to, you're going to feel that. It's estimated that during re-entry, the Artemis II crew was going to feel about 4 to 5 Gs, which is about what you'd feel on some roller coasters. Hell, like professional, stunt pilots, like the people who fly for the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds or things like that, in the apex of their most tight maneuvers, they're even only going to pull about 9 to 10 Gs. And 9 to 10 Gs is twice what the Artemis II crew was going to feel during re-entry. So if a trained fighter pilot can handle 9 to 10 Gs, which, again, the astronauts are also trained. They do intense gravity training for these missions. Like, you can't just get on a rocket yourself. Well, you can't just get on, the SLS just off the street as a civilian. You have to train for these missions. I don't even think you can just do that with the Blue Origin missions or things like that. I think you have to do a little bit of training for those as well, because certain gravitational pressures are going to mess with your body, and especially at the forces that you're going to feel during a rocket launch, which are well in excess of what the Artemis II crew was feeling during re-entry. You're going to need training for that. They don't just pull any random Joe Schmo off the streets. The whole point that I was trying to make there is the human body does not feel speed. It feels acceleration. The best example I can think of is this. If you've ever flown, which I'm almost certain you have, Eric, if you've ever flown, you know how that feels. You know the feeling you get as soon as the plane starts to accelerate on the runway, as soon as it rotates, and as it's ascending to cruising altitude. You can feel the forces of the plane as it's ascending and changing speed. When you hit cruising altitude, it's almost dead quiet. Well, it's not quiet, but it's almost dead smooth. You do not feel like you're flying when you hit cruising altitude unless the plane does any kind of a change in motion or unless it drops speed. Like, you can obviously feel when the plane starts to bank either left or right, but you're not going to feel just the speed of the aircraft in and of itself. Only if it loses speed or if it starts to gain speed are you going to feel that. I had a model of an Alaskan Airlines 737 sitting next to me the entire time for this segment that I could have used as any kind of a demonstration for what I was trying to describe, and I didn't, and I am very ashamed of that. But look at it, isn't it pretty? This is November 493 Alpha Sierra. This was a 737-900 that used to be painted in this particular paint scheme. It has since been repainted into the normal Alaska Airlines scheme, but this was the first plane I ever flew on, and I have a model of it. Like, this was literally the first passenger plane I ever flew on a flight from Chicago to San Francisco. I have a video of me putting together this model and telling the story. I'll link it in the description. Just for shigs. You keep throwing around these colossal numbers, expecting them to have any kind of a shock value, but for anybody that understands even a modicum of physics, it's not going to shock anybody. You do the same thing with the Earth. I know that's a big problem for flat earthers too, is the speed at which the Earth is moving. Yes, the Earth is moving around the sun at over almost 67,000 miles an hour, but it's not changing speed. I mean, it kind of is, like, depending on where it is in its orbit, but it is such a gradual drop off of speed that you are not going to feel it. It's the same with the rotation of the Earth every day. The Earth rotates once every 24 hours. Go sit on one of those little, like, child's merry-go-round things at a park and spin it once every 24 hours and tell me how blisteringly fast that is, you unfrosted mini-wheat. Thanks, FTFE, for that one.
NASA is claiming these astronauts withstood speeds of over Mach 32, which is 5 times faster than the world record, Mach 6.72, set by William Knight, flying an X-15A2 rocket-powered jet. This has remained the highest speed ever attained by a piloted, air-breathing aircraft since 1967, unless you include NASA and their superhuman astronauts who are able to break that record 5 times. No problem.
So I had to look up what an air-breathing aircraft is because I have never heard that terminology before, and it sounds stupid on the surface because obviously aircraft don't have lungs, so they can't fucking breathe. But apparently an air-breathing aircraft is just a unnecessarily complicated term for anything that flies with a jet engine. So like a standard airliner has a turbojet or a turbofan engine.
I had a model of an Alaskan Airlines 737 sitting.
And that is an air-breathing aircraft because the principle of that operates off of air moving through the system. That being said, I don't know if you've noticed this, Eric, but rockets are not turbofans. More importantly, the Orion capsule doesn't have any giant engines on it. So Artemis II and the Orion capsule did have auxiliary thrusters on it and the European Space Agency module on it, but those were not for propelling the spacecraft anywhere. They were meant to do maneuvering. They're not for propulsion. I know we already covered this in the first part, but again, there was no rocket that was propelling the Orion capsule all the way around the moon. It propelled it enough to hit escape velocity so it could get towards the moon, but then once it got past that point, the engines were not only shut off, but they were detached, leaving only these auxiliary thrusters on the Orion capsule that were briefly used during re-entry to maneuver the spacecraft a little bit to get it in the right orientation to then splash down back in the ocean. The Orion capsule did not have engines propelling it the entire way. Again, we've already established this. It was on a gravitational loop around the moon. There was no propulsion. Either way, even if there was propulsion, it still wasn't a turbojet. It wasn't a plane engine. It was a rocket. Those are two different pieces of technology altogether. You need to stop.
While their spacecraft was allegedly propelling the astronauts back to Earth at 7 miles per second, they claimed the craft heated up to 2,800 degrees Celsius, or 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. To give you an idea at how ridiculously hot that is, erupting lava is around 1,000 degrees Celsius, or 2,000 Fahrenheit. So NASA is claiming this craft and its occupants endured heat 2.5 times hotter than molten lava during their re-entry.
So, Eric. If you've studied anything about the Orion capsule, which I don't think you have, you would know that the Orion capsule has something called a heat shield. A heat shield. It is a thing that shields the capsule from heat. I'm going to read to you from the reference guide that NASA has on their website for the Orion capsule. You can go download this yourself. I might even be nice and leave a link to the reference guide in the description. I'm going to read directly from it and tell you exactly why you have no idea what you're talking about and how this heat shield works and why the astronauts didn't burn to a crisp in 5,000 degree Fahrenheit heat. Measuring 16.5 feet in diameter, it's the largest ablative heat shield in the world. The outer surface is made of blocks of an ablative material called avcoat, a reformulated version of the material used on the Apollo capsules. During descent, the avcoat ablates or burns off in a controlled fashion, transporting heat away from Orion. The heat shield absorbs the heat, and then when those portions get too hot, they burn off of the shield, meaning they take all of the heat that was on that portion of the shield away from the capsule. The capsule itself probably barely felt a thing. In fact, on page 24 of this reference guide, it goes on to do a little neat thing that give you actually specifics of this. While the outside temperatures during entry into the Earth's atmosphere will reach 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, inside the spacecraft it will be in the mid-70s. The astronauts aren't going to feel a thing inside the spacecraft. It's going to be room temperature in the spacecraft. My thermostat is reading 73 degrees right now. I am probably sitting in temperatures very similar to the inside of the Artemis capsule during re-entry.
Next, they claim a series of parachutes shot out the back of the craft along with the drag of the Earth's atmosphere were somehow able to successfully slow them down from 25,000 miles per hour down to a smooth 20 miles per hour and plop down safely in the ocean.
The capsule is specifically designed in a way to maximize air friction. The reason it's shaped the way it is, like a bell, is the flat curved surface of the capsule is meant to make the surface area of the capsule as big as possible to slow it down. That is just physics. Let's say you take a piece of paper. I know the Orion capsule isn't made out of paper, but work with me here. You take a piece of paper, you hold it flat out, and you drop it. It's going to slowly float to the ground because air is able to push up on it, and it's light enough that the surface area of the paper is absorbing most of the fall. So there's more air resistance on the piece of paper, so it's going to fall slower. It's going to find the path of least resistance and kind of just gently float down to the ground. It's the same thing with the space capsule as it is with the piece of paper. It uses the surface area of the capsule as an air resistor and slows the descent of the spacecraft. That is just, again, physics. I know flat earthers have problems with physics because this stuff has been explained to you a million times, and yet somehow you still don't get it. This is how physics works. Bigger surface area equals more air resistance equals slowed rate of descent. The first set of parachutes were not deployed until 3.5 minutes before splashdown. The second main set of parachutes was then deployed at 2.5 minutes before splashdown. The capsule had already slowed its descent dramatically just from air resistance in and of itself. Again, the atmosphere is, I know, something you have a problem with, because the atmosphere and its gradient rely on gravity, which again you don't believe exists. As you get closer and closer to the Earth, the atmosphere becomes thicker and thicker, and the more air that the space capsule has to plow through, the more it's going to get resisted and the slower it is going to go. There is no trickery here. That is physics. Physics is a thing. Crack open a physics book. Learn some fucking physics.
But if you take something out of a scorching hot temperature and dunk it into water, what happens? There should be a huge mass of steam rising around the craft when it hits the water, if it was really so hot. Instead, what do we see? Not even a trace of any steam whatsoever.
Yeah, of course there wasn't any steam, because all of the stuff that was 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit had burnt off and fallen off during the descent. The underside of the capsule was probably ridiculously cool compared to what was absorbed by the heat shield. Again, this is just thermodynamics, buddy. This is just basic science. Things that are cool are not going to give off steam when they hit water.
Next, you have the interviews from returning astronauts. Just like when the 3 original Apollo astronauts did their initial press conference after supposedly returning from the moon, these 4 actronauts flubbed their lines as well. As Christina Koch smiles from ear to ear, unable to hide her duper's delight talking some New World Order crap about how we're all one crew on Spaceship Earth.
The fucking Illuminati shit? Really? Really? That's what this is about? Oh no, humanity's working together on a fucking project. What a goddamn crime. Grow the fuck up. Are you serious?
She pauses for approximately 20 cringe-inducing, awkward beyond belief seconds, laughs, and says, "Uh-oh," before finally continuing her speech.
And honestly, what struck me wasn't necessarily just Earth, it was all the blackness around it. Earth was just this lifeboat hanging undisturbingly in the universe. Uh-oh. So I may have not learned, I know I haven't learned, everything that this journey has yet to teach me. But there's one new thing I know, and that is, Planet Earth, you are a crew. Thank you.
Apologists with zero discernment claim she just got so choked up that she couldn't speak. But those of us with even a little intuition and discernment, able to read faces and body language, can clearly see that is not what happened there.
I'm going to say something in this video that I never thought I would actually say. Eric Dubay is right. He's right, and I'm going to say that, yeah, she's getting emotional. You can hear it in her fucking voice if you listen for 5 goddamn seconds. She is trying to not tear up. She's saying, uh-oh, because she knows she's going to start crying if she doesn't lock in. She's trying not to cry. A lot of us don't like to cry on camera. I don't like to cry on camera. I don't even like to cry off camera. Are you kidding me? Nobody likes crying, especially when you've got an audience to your crying. This whole shit with those of us who have discernment and a little bit of intuition. You don't have the single slightest clue of any kind of intuition of social cues. And this is coming from somebody who is autistic as fuck and cannot read social cues to save her life. She's trying not to cry on camera in front of an audience. I think you would do the same thing. In fact, I'm almost certain you would do the same thing because you've got that same toxic masculine energy that every single one of you fucks gives off. Learn to read a goddamn room. Learn to actually read a goddamn room. You smug fuck.
She either forgot her rehearsed lines or had an earpiece malfunction where the person feeding her lines cut out for an uncomfortably long time and she didn't know what to do or say next. People speaking spontaneously from the heart about such an experience would never have such a reaction as this. This is clearly a flub-up from an actress forgetting her lines.
I know I'm going real heavy on the ad hominems here, and I normally don't do that, but this is just too good to pass up. This whole statement right here tells me you have never had a good goddamn experience in your life. You have never once been in an experience where you have been so captivated and so enthralled by everything that's going on that you were just at a loss for words. You have never had a single ounce of beauty in your fucking life. If you have never experienced being at a loss for words over something so magnificent and extraordinary. I had the same thing when I saw Mount St. Helens for the first time. I had the same thing when I saw mountains for the first time. I had the same thing when I saw, even though I talk shit about it all the time and I deliberately left it, which explains the new setting and its, current state right now, I had the same expression when I saw Reno for the first time when I moved there. When I crested the hill on westbound Interstate 80 coming into Sparks and saw Reno tucked into the valley for the first time. This was about 5 o'clock in the evening, so it was just the sun was just starting to set a little bit. The lights had all come on. Reno was lit up like a goddamn jewel in the middle of this valley, secluded, like this little magic island paradise that was tucked away from the rest of humanity in the middle of the desert where nobody would find it. That is an experience I will remember for the rest of my life. As much as I hated Northern Nevada, as much as I hated the political environment, as much as I hated the people there, and the smugness, and the just how much I hated everything about Northern Nevada, that first view of Reno will stick with me for the rest of my life. I was at a loss for words. That happens when people have magical experiences and experience beauty beyond their wildest dreams. I hope you get to experience that at least once in your life, because it sounds like you haven't yet. And everybody could use a little bit of beauty in their life, even you.
Christina Koch was apparently an actual actress before NASA as well, credited with playing one of the mother characters from 2015's Mad Max Fury Road.
I found an article on factcheck.afp.com, so take that however you want, because I have no idea of this website's credentials, but according to an article I found about this particular topic on, again, factcheck.afp.com, I'll leave a link in the description as well, the Christina Koch, or Koch, I'm getting asked, I still don't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry, I really should be looking this up. The Christina that was in Mad Max Fury Road is from Namibia, and according to one of the other actresses who played this group of people that they're talking about, this Christina was in her 50s when they filmed Mad Max Fury Road in 2015, or before 2015. The Christina that took part in the Artemis II mission is, as of right now, 47, and does not live in Namibia. These are not the same person. I'll even put up side-by-side depictions of the two. The faces are clearly different. The noses are very distinctly different. These are not the same person. These have never been the same person. You're grasping at straws.
And just to show how interconnected the NASA astronauts are with their Hollywood counterparts, here you can see the Artemis crew just hanging out with Tom Hanks, who featured in the popular Apollo 13 film. And here they are in a photo op with Ryan Gosling, also playing the role of an astronaut in the new Project Hail Mary film.
Oh no, celebrities got invited to a major event for a publicity stunt. This must mean that every single thing we've ever been told about the Earth is fake. Are you fucking serious? Yeah, celebrities are going to get invited to these types of things. That's just how the world works, especially if those celebrities have been involved in space movies. This is the biggest undertaking of space exploration that humanity has undertaken in over 50 years. Of course, they're going to invite space-related movie stars to these publicity events for the thing. That's just kind of how this works. It's the same reason they sent William Shatner up in one of the Blue Origin rockets. You're telling me you're not going to send Captain fucking Kirk into space? That doesn't mean the Earth is flat. That doesn't mean space is fake. That doesn't mean we never went to the moon. Those are two completely separate ideas. Just because a couple of actors have made appearances at these publicity events for a huge piece of space exploration doesn't mean the whole thing is fake. My God, you talk so much about using your brain in these videos. I don't think you actually are using your brain. I genuinely don't even know if there's a brain in there. I'd love to see a CAT scan of that to at least see if there's something in there. And if there is something in there, start fucking using it. Are you serious?
These are all actors, just hanging out with each other. But we're supposed to believe that some of them are serious scientists, risking their lives, traveling to outer space, while the others are just actors hanging on wires in front of green screens. But the reality is, all of them are actors, just from different studios. And that is why these kind of photo ops even happen in the first place.
Finally, I get to use the journalism part of my background. Hi, I used to be a director and a video editor for Colo 8 News Now in Reno, Nevada. I've worked with a green screen before. I've coded things for a green screen. The weather wall that you see meteorologists standing in front of when they're delivering the weather is a fucking green screen. You can tell when somebody's standing in front of a green screen. You can tell when they're on a harness. You can tell when these things are happening. The telltale signs that they're in front of a green screen do not exist in the Artemis footage. I'll give you examples. There have been points where, when I was directing Good Morning Reno, I've seen Lindsay Matherly, the morning meteorologist for Colo 8 News Now, when she's standing in front of the weather wall, I've seen her shadow on the weather wall, on the map. that she's standing in front of. If you stand too close to the green screen, your shadow is going to pop up on the screen, whether you want it to or not. There is no lighting situation in the world that is going to completely eliminate your shadow in front of a green screen. You see no such thing in the Artemis II footage. You have an entire depth to the scene that would not be present in front of a green screen. There would be pixelation errors where the chroma key wasn't interacting properly with the green screen, depending on the lighting situation. You do not see that in any of the Artemis II footage. I have worked with green screens in a professional capacity. This is not green screen footage. I will tell you that right now. I will tell you that for free. I know what a green screen does. This ain't it, Chief.
Now that Christina has been back for a week, footage has come out of her in physical therapy, where apparently her ability to walk has reverted from when she was bouncing around back and forth on the stage on her first day back talking about how we're all one big Earth crew, to now where she can't even walk a straight line without falling down and having more duper's delight while she does so. She's laughing at her own ridiculously bad acting. But of course, NASA apologist fanboys will claim she's just a brave, stoic warrior putting on a strong, happy face.
She's certainly a lot braver than you are, buddy.
Why would you have no problem walking when you first got back to Earth, but then a week later be stumbling all over yourself to this degree? Again, a little bit of intuition, discernment, and critical thinking goes a long way.
Also, you want to talk about the walking thing? Let's talk about the walking thing. Here is me walking normally across the camera. Now here is me trying to walk a straight line as in a field sobriety test in front of the camera. If I ever get pulled over, I'm in trouble. Either way, that was to demonstrate that walking in a straight line like a field sobriety test is already hard for some people when they're not drunk. I can only imagine how badly I would have done that if I was drunk. I'm not going to test that theory. Either way, the point still stands. Walking normally versus walking in a way to mimic a balance beam, essentially, are two completely different sets of motor skills. Most people are going to have no problems walking normally, but then turn around and cannot do that field sobriety test thing. That's just basic anatomy. You are making a mountain out of a molehill with this. There is so much stretching involved. There is so much stretching involved in this that Elastigirl is jealous of you.
Last but not least, let's go back to the spacecraft and watch Christina playing with the little stuffed toy the astronauts couldn't seem to put down the entire mission. Notice how her arms and hands leave shadows over her legs, because they are, of course, physical objects in 3D space, affected by light and shadow. The little stuffed toy, however, which is a digital artifact being interacted with in real time through augmented virtual reality, shows no shadow on her leg.
The toy very clearly leaves a shadow on her hand, you fuckwit. So that's going to do it for this video. I really need to start doing more of these because that was a lot of fun to do. I know I am barking up a huge tree going straight after Eric Dubay in my very first Flat Earth... Actually, no, this isn't my very first Flat Earth debunking video. I've done several things on my original channel that I really probably should port over to here. But in the first foray that I am doing into Flat Earth for this channel, barking up the tree that is Eric Dubay, I know is a massive step. But I think this is going to be fun. We'll see where this goes. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.